Welcome to Local Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance in Los Angeles today, joined by the chair of the Board of Supervisors in Los Angeles County, Mark Ridley-Thomas. And we are looking back at 25 years after, we'll call them the Rodney King riots, if we can use that term. I was in Los Angeles, you were in Los Angeles.
Clearly.
You had just been elected to the LA City Council.
Correct.
Take me back to April 29th, 1992.
Well, it was a harrowing day in many respects. I was at City Hall with a colleague when the verdicts were rendered. Both Rita Walters and I were there, and we were just simply astonished by the verdict. Well, we spoke with the mayor of the city of Los Angeles, Tom Bradley.
Three African American leaders of stature
Right.
At the time.
And ultimately, we found ourselves at the First AME Church, and that had been the plan to assemble there, irrespective of the outcome of the verdict. And it was a very, very tension-packed moment and/or experience that, in many respects, defined how deeply pained people were.
Were you aware that folks in South Los Angeles broadly were feeling such deep-seated pain? You knew that?
Well, as relates to police community relations, and the fact of the matter is that this is a long standing challenge for law enforcement. In South Los Angeles. You may recall at the time the chief of police was Daryl Gates, and he was a bit of a lightning rod.
A bit incendiary, one could argue.
Yes, you could say that, and that would be a polite way of characterizing it. But he was iconic in the law enforcement community. So therein lied the tension.
Now, I was much younger. I was a young lawyer at the time. And I think I did have a sense that there were tensions between communities of color and law enforcement. I did not have a sense that there were tensions between African Americans and Korean Americans. I was not aware that Korean Americans owned many businesses in South Los Angeles, and some African Americans felt a bit of animosity. There had been the verdict when Latasha Harlins, that caused tensions. But when Koreatown blew up, metaphorically, I didn't know that was coming.
Well, I mean, the disappointment that Korean American business persons had with Los Angeles, the Los Angeles Police Department, in terms of their unresponsiveness to the circumstances with which they had been confronted, was nothing short of palpable. And that pain, that anger manifested itself, and they largely took matters into their own hands, which created another crisis for the department. But I think it's true to say that the tensions in Koreatown, largely a merchant class of Koreans, but the residential base was largely Latino. And the tensions there were very, very real. And the extent to which it was magnified was less when compared to African American and Korean tensions.
So let's fast forward 25 years. You have been on the City Council, State Assembly, State Senate, now you're on the Board of Supervisors. I recently spoke with one of your former colleagues, Xavier Oslovsky, who is now heading up an institute at UCLA. And they had done a study recently, lots of elements of the study, but I zero in on one part of the study, which is they asked LA County residents how they feel race relations are, and 79% said they're positive. I mean, that's just nothing short of astonishing and gratifying.
Well, it is, but it's because leadership seeks to model a much more enlightened way of relating. The chief of police in Los Angeles, the city of Los Angeles, Charlie Beck, compared to Daryl Gates, night and day, different sensibility. The same is true in terms of the relationship between the mayor of the city of LA and the chief of police. Bradley and Gates, very strained. Garcetti and Beck, not so with them. And so there is a much more enlightened way of understanding race relations in this town, and I think people are much more sensitive and open to how we collaborate, how we mediate, how we resolve conflicts, how we do it in schools, in houses of worship, and a lot of work has been done. Days of dialogue, conflict resolution, and so it's a different, all of those factors, the Human Relations Commission in the city, as well as in the county, and all 88 cities for that matter, make a huge difference. So the investment in the infrastructure, that is the human infrastructure that is defined by diversity in Los Angeles County, has made a big difference.
Let's talk about South Los Angeles and how South Los Angeles has progressed these last 25 years. If we look at poverty, if we look at jobs, as I understand it, the numbers are essentially flat. Poverty is still a bit stubborn. Joblessness is still a bit stubborn.
Yes, poverty, interestingly enough, is ticking upwards if you compare 1990 census data to 2015 mid-year data. It upticked. It's interesting with the comparison on employment. The unemployment is less than what it was then. And so you have an interesting kind of contradiction there. But income inequality and the issue of affordability of housing makes a huge difference. It is much more deep, it is much more profound, it is much more challenging. And it's a driver in terms of something that we had not anticipated, this unprecedented level of homelessness.
We look at health care.
As
a result, arguably, of the Affordable Care Act, we see higher insured rates among South LA residents.
That's correct.
Obesity seems to be a stubborn problem in South Los Angeles, but a problem in lots of parts of our county, let alone country.
It's a very serious problem. It's obviously diabetes related, and the earning power of those who are struck with that disease is obviously lessened. What makes it even more challenging when you have childhood diabetes, and they live a life well into their 60s with the disease, they do not live the quality of life that adult onset diabetes takes. Therefore, you end up being a diabetic in your 60s, and you may live another decade and a half or so, but you lose all that earlier experience of earning power, vibrance, etc. That's a quality of life issue, and it factors into what? It factors into the health quotient, it factors into productivity. It also has implications for one's ability to see what's in one's environment in terms of supermarkets and the products that you can buy and the like. And so
the food islands.
That's the food deserts, and then the issue of the under-marketed places and spaces. And so all of these things are contributing factors, and they do then constitute what makes it tough to navigate and contribute to explosions in part like you saw in '92.
He is Mark Ridley-Thomas, Chair of the Board of Supervisors in LA County. I'm Pomerance. It's Local Edition.